Therāpadāna.
The Legends of the Theras. Gandhathupiya Chapter the 34th. 331. Gandhathupiya. I gave a scented stupa for Siddhartha the Buddha, blessed one, enveloped by jasmine flowers, as befitted the Sambuddha. The Sambuddha, the world's leader, was like a costly thing of gold, bright like a blue water lily, blazing up like a fire altar. My heart was pleased by having seen the chief of monks who was seated, honored by the monks' assembly, like an excellent tiger bull, like a lion of good breeding, and pressing my hands together, having worshipped the teacher's feet, I departed facing the north. In the 94 eons since I gave those good scents at that time, I've come to know no bad rebirth, the fruit of doing scent puja, the 4 analytical modes, and these 8 deliverances, 6 special knowledges mastered. I have done what the Buddha taught. Thus indeed Venerable Gandhathupiya Thera spoke these verses. The legend of Gandhathupiya Thera is finished. (332). Udakapujaka. I saw the golden Sambuddha, going in the path of the wind, glistening like an oil altar, blazing up like a fire altar. Taking some water with my hand, I tossed it up into the sky. The Buddha, compassionate sage, great hero, then accepted it. Standing in the sky, the teacher, whose name was Pabhankara, discerning what I was thinking, spoke this verse about me just then, because of this gift of water, and the joy that he produced then, for 100,000 eons. He'll come to know no bad rebirth. Due to that deed for Buddha, the world's best one, the bull of men, I've attained the unshaking state, beyond all conquest and defeat. In the 6500th aeon, there were 3 wheel-turning monarchs. All were named Sahasraja, lords over people on 4 sides, the 4 analytical modes, and these 8 deliverances, 6 special knowledges mastered. I have done what the Buddha taught. Thus indeed Venerable Udakapujaka Thera spoke these verses. The legend of Udakapujaka Thera is finished. (333). Punnagapupphiya. Plunging into a forest grove, I lived there as a hunter then. Seeing a laurel tree in bloom, I called to mind the best Buddha. Having plucked a flower from it, well perfumed and scented with scents, having made a stupa of sand, I offered it to the Buddha. In the 92 eons since I did that flower puja then, I've come to know no bad rebirth. That's the fruit of Buddha puja. In the 91st aeon hence, lived a ruler, Tamanuta, a wheel-turning king with great strength, possessor of the 7 gems, the 4 analytical modes, and these 8 deliverances, 6 special knowledges mastered. I have done what the Buddha taught. Thus indeed Venerable Punnagapupphiya Thera spoke these verses. The legend of Punnagapupphiya Thera is finished. (334). Ekadussadayaka. In the city Hasavat, I was a grass-bearer back then. I am living by bearing grass, and by that I feed my children. The victor, Pabhankara, was the master of everything. Doing away with the darkness, the world leader arose back then. While sitting down in my own house, this is what I thought at that time. The Buddha's risen in the world, but I lack anything to give. I only have this single cloak. I do not have my own donor. Suffering is a taste of hell. I will now plant a donation. Contemplating it in this way, I brought pleasure to my own heart. Taking that single piece of cloth, I gave it to the best Buddha. Having given that single cloth, I gave rise to great shouts of joy. If you are a Buddha, wise one, carry me across, O great sage. Pabhankara, world knower, sacrificial recipient, singing the praises of my gift. The Buddha then gave thanks to me, because of this single cloak gift, done with intention and resolve. He will not go to a bad place, for 100,000 eons. 36 times a Lord of gods, he will exercise divine rule, and 33 times he'll become a king who turns the wheel of law. There will be much regional rule, incalculable by counting. In the world of gods or of men, you'll transmigrate in existence, good-looking and full of virtue, with a body that's not surpassed. You'll obtain, whenever you wish, unwavering, limitless cloth. When he had said this, the Buddha, known by the name Supreme Lotus, the wise one, rose into the sky, just like a swan king in the air. In whichever womb I'm reborn, whether it's human or divine, I have no lack of possessions. That's the fruit of a single cloth. With every footstep that I take, some cloth is then produced for me. I stand upon cloth underneath, a canopy on top of me, and today I still am wishing that I could cover with some cloth even the whole universe, with its forests and its mountains, just because of that single cloth. Transmigrating from birth to birth, I was one of golden color, transmigrating from birth to birth. One result of that single cloth. No ruination anywhere. This one will be my final life, that now is bearing fruit for me, in the 100,000 eons. Since I gave that cloth at that time, I've come to know no bad rebirth. That's the fruit of a single cloth. My defilements are now burnt up. All new existence is destroyed. Like elephants with broken chains, I am living without constraint. The 4 analytical modes, and these 8 deliverances, 6 special knowledges mastered. I have done what the Buddha taught. Thus indeed Venerable Ekadussadayaka Thera spoke these verses. The legend of Ekadussadayaka Thera is finished. (335) Phussitakammiya. The Sambuddha named Vipassi, the world's best, the bull among men, dwelt in the monk's hermitage then, together with the arahants. Vipassi, leader of the world, went out from the hermitage door, with those devoid of defilements, who numbered 800,000. I was then dressed in a deer hide, and also wore clothes made of bark. Carrying safflower water, I came up to the Sambuddha, bringing pleasure to my own heart. Happy, my hands pressed together, taking the safflower water, I sprinkled it on the Buddha. Due to that deed, the Sambuddha, known by the name Supreme Lotus, after praising that deed of mine, went according to his wishes. There were 5,000 scented drops, which I offered to the victor. Because of 2,500, I ruled over the world of gods. Because of 2,500, I was a wheel-turning monarch. Due to the remaining karma, I attained my arahantship. When I am a king of the gods, and likewise when a lord of men, that very name's assigned to me. My name is always Phussita. Whether I have become a god, or likewise whether I'm a man, it's as though drops are raining forth, a fathom in all directions. My existence is opened up. My defilements are all burnt up. All the outflows are now destroyed. That is the fruit of giving drops. My rain smells like it's sandalwood, and it diffuses such fragrance. My body odors also sweet. A small room is permeated. A divine fragrance is diffused. To people who have good karma, after smelling that scent they know, Phussita has come to this place. Branches, leaves, sticks, even grasses, throughout the world it's as though plants, recognizing what I'm thinking, in an instant produce fragrance. In the 100,000 eons, since I did sandalwood puja, I've come to know no bad rebirth. That is the fruit of giving drops. The 4 analytical modes, and these 8 deliverances, 6 special knowledges mastered. I have done what the Buddha taught. Thus indeed Venerable Phussitakammiya Thera spoke these verses. The legend of Phussitakammiya Thera is finished. (336) Pabhankara. In deep forest which was crowded with wild beasts there was a stupa of blessed Pajamuttara, the world's best one, the neutral one. Nobody dared to travel there. to pay homage to the stupa. The stupa was broken, in ruins, covered in grasses, sticks and vines. I was then a forest worker, as were father and grandfathers. I saw that stupa in the woods, broken, tangled in grass and vines. Having seen the Buddha's stupa, I served it with a reverent heart. The best Buddha's stupa, broken, is abandoned in the forest. Is not meet, not appropriate, for one who can tell right from wrong. But I engage in other work, not cleaning the Buddha's stupa, cleaning off the grasses and sticks, and vines growing on the stupa. After worshipping it 8 times, still bent over, I then went off. Due to that karma done very well, with intention and firm resolve, discarding my human body, I went to Tvetisa then. There my well-constructed mansion was made of gold, brightly shining. It rose up 60 leagues in height, and it was 30 leagues in width, and 30 different times did I exercise rule over the gods, and 25 times was I a wheel-turning king with great strength, transmigrating from birth to birth. I'm receiving great possessions. Possessions never lack for me. That's the fruit of cleaning stupas. When I'm going in the forest, seated on an elephant's back, whichever direction I go, the forest provides me refuge. I do not see with my 2 eyes any tree stump or thorn at all. In accordance with my karma, it gets removed all by itself. I do not get the itch, ringworm, rashes, abscesses, leprosy, epilepsy and scabies too. That's the fruit of cleaning stupas. Another miracle for me, after I had cleaned the stupa, I was not conscious of pimples or spots produced on my body. Another miracle for me, after I had cleaned the stupa, I transmigrate in just 2 states, that of a god or of a man. Another miracle for me, after I had cleaned the stupa, every place where I am living is gold-colored and very bright. Another miracle for me, after I had cleaned the stupa, displeasing things are avoided, and things which are pleasing appear. Another miracle for me, after I had cleaned the stupa, my mind is always very pure, one-pointed, very attentive. Another miracle for me, after I had cleaned the stupa, seated in a single sitting, I achieved the arahant state, in the 100,000 eons. Since I did that good karma then, I've come to know no bad rebirth. That's the fruit of cleaning stupas, the 4 analytical modes, and these 8 deliverances, 6 special knowledges mastered. I have done what the Buddha taught. Thus indeed Venerable Pabhankara spoke these verses. The legend of Pabhankara is finished. 337. Tinakutidayaka. In the city Bandamati, I was one who worked for others. Though bound in service to others, I looked not for another's rice. Gone off alone and sitting down, I thought it out in this way. The Buddha's risen in the world, and I've provided no service. It is time to clean up my life. The moment is prepared for me. Suffering is a taste of hell, for creatures devoid of merit. Having thought it out in this way, I approached the labor foreman. After begging him for some work, I entered into the forest, having gathered at that time some grass and sticks and also some vines, and having put 3 poles in place, I constructed a grass hut there. After I dedicated that hut for the assembly of monks, I came back on that very day, and approached the labor foreman. Due to that karma done very well, I then went to Tvetisa. My mansion there, very well made, was created by a grass hut. The mansion that appeared for me, a milka cent bew large, made of gold, covered in flags, contained 100,000 doors. In whichever womb I'm reborn, whether it's human or divine, recognizing what I'm thinking, palace comes to be for me. I do not experience fear, get stupefied, horripilate. I do not know those things in me. That's the fruit of grass hut giving. Lions and tigers and leopards, bears and wolves, caravana bears, all of them stay away from me. That's the fruit of grass hut giving. Vipers and ghosts, cobras as well. Kumbha, Rakasa demons, they too are all avoiding me. That's the fruit of grass hut giving. I do not remember seeing my dreams when they are of evil. Mindfulness arises for me. That's the fruit of grass hut giving. Just because of that grass hut gift, I have experienced success. I have witnessed the teaching of Gautama Buddha, Blessed One, in the 91 eons since. I did that good karma back then. I've come to know no bad rebirth. That's the fruit of grass hut giving. The 4 analytical modes, and these 8 deliverances, 6 special knowledges mastered. I have done what the Buddha taught. Thus indeed Venerable Tinakutidayaka Thera spoke these verses. The legend of Tinakutidayaka Thera is finished. (338) Uttareyyadayaka. In the city Hasavat, I was a Brahmin at that time, a scholar who knew the mantras, a master of the 3 Vedas. I was honored by my students, of good birth, well educated. I went out from the city then, for a water consecration. The victor, Pabhankara, was the master of everything. The victor entered the city, with 1,000 undefiled ones. Seeing him surrounded by saints, I brought great pleasure to my heart, as though made free of lust by just seeing him, the good-looking one. Hands pressed together on my head, I worshipped the compliant one. Happy with pleasure in my heart, I donated an upper cloak. Taking it with both of my hands, I threw that cloak into the sky. That cloak became a canopy, as big as Buddha's retinue. It remained there covering that massive group of monks and others, going about in search of alms. Then that miracle made me smile. When he departed from the house, the self become one chief person. The teacher, standing in the road, gave me this expression of thanks. I shall relate details of him, who, happy, heart filled with pleasure, made a gift of this cloak to me. All of you listen to my words. For 30,000 eons he will delight in the world of gods. 50 times the Lord of the gods. He will exercise divine rule, while he, endowed with good karma, is dwelling in the world of gods. There will be a cloth canopy, 100 leagues on every side, and 36 times he will be a king who turns the wheel of law, and he will have much local rule, innumerable by counting, while he, endowed with good karma, is transmigrating in the world. Everything wished for with his mind will be realized all the time. This man is going to receive cloth which is very expensive, silk cloth and woolen blankets too, coma and also cotton cloth. Everything wished for with his mind, this man is going to receive. He's always going to enjoy the result of one piece of cloth. And afterwards, having gone forth, incited by his wholesome roots, he will realize for himself the blessed Gautama's teaching. Oh, that karma well done by me, for the omniscient one great sage, having given a single cloak, I have attained the deathless state. When I am in a pavilion, a tree root or an empty house, a cloth canopy is carried. For me a fathom on each side, and because of that robe I gave, I'm dressed in clothes without asking. I receive food and also drink. That's the fruit of an upper cloak. In the 100,000 eons, since I did that good karma then, I've come to know no bad rebirth. That is the fruit of giving cloth. The 4 analytical modes, and these 8 deliverances, 6 special knowledges mastered. I have done what the Buddha taught. Thus indeed Venerable Uttareyyadayaka Thera spoke these verses. The legend of Uttareyyadayaka Thera is finished. (339) Dhammasavaniya. The victor, Pabhankara, was the master of everything. While preaching the 4 noble truths, he ferried many folks across. A matted-haired ascetic then, I practiced fierce austerities. Throwing off my clothes made of bark, I traveled in the sky back then. Then I was unable to fly. Over him the best of Buddhas. Like a bird hitting a mountain, I did not get to journey on. My movement had not formerly been obstructed in such a way, as though rising up from water, I easily flew through the sky. A lofty human being must be sitting underneath me now. It's good for me to search for him. I might obtain something worthwhile. Then descending from the sky, I heard the sound of the teacher, who was preaching impermanence. I learned that lesson at that time, learning to see impermanence. I went back to my hermitage, dwelling there the rest of my life. I passed away right on the spot. In my subsequent existence, I recalled hearing that teaching. Due to that karma done very well, I went to Tvetisa then. For 30,000 eons I delighted in the world of gods, and I exercised divine rule, one more than 50 different times, and 71 different times. I was a wheel-turning monarch. There was also much local rule, innumerable by counting. Then seated in my father's house, a monk with senses well controlled, illustrating the truth in verse, spoke of things as impermanent, remembering that perception, transmigrating from birth to birth. I still did not perceive the end. Nirvana, everlasting state. In flux indeed is all that is. Things come to be and then decay. They arise and then they dissolve. Their cessation is happiness. After hearing him say that verse, I recalled my past perception. Seated in a single sitting, I achieved the arahant state. Being only 7 years old, I attained my arahantship. Recognizing my virtue, the Buddha Eiffel One ordained me. Even though I was a mere boy, I finished what needs to be done. Today, what do I need to do? In the Sakyan's dispensation? In the 100,000 eons. Since I did that good karma then, I've come to know no bad rebirth. The fruit in hearing the teaching, the 4 analytical modes, and these 8 deliverances, 6 special knowledges mastered. I have done what the Buddha taught. Thus indeed Venerable Dhammasavaniya Thera spoke these verses. The legend of Dhammasavaniya Thera is finished. Munnootu Narbadu, Ukkhittpadumiya. In the city Hazavat, I was a florist at that time. Plunging into a lotus lake, I gathered some lotus blossoms. The victor Pajamudara was the master of everything, along with 100,000, such like ones whose minds were peaceful, pure ones with defilements destroyed. 6 special knowledge possessors, the ultimate person approached, desirous of my improvement. Having seen him, the God of gods, the self become one world leader, breaking off the stems I tossed those lotuses into the air then. If you are a Buddha hero, the world's best one, the bull of men, let these lotuses by themselves go and be carried on your head. The world's best one, the bull of men, the great hero then wishing so, through the power of the Buddha, those blooms were carried on his head. Due to that karma done very well, with intention and firm resolve, discarding my human body, I went to Tvetisa then. There my well-constructed mansion was known as 100 petals. It rose up 60 leagues in height, and it was 30 leagues in width. 1,000 times the Lord of gods. I exercised divine rule then, and 75 times I was a king who turned the wheel of law. There was also much local rule, innumerable by counting. I experienced own karma, formerly well done by myself. Due to just that single lotus, experiencing good fortune, I realized the teaching of the blessed Buddha, Gautama. My defilements are now burnt up. All new existence is destroyed. Like elephants with broken chains, I am living without constraint. In the 100,000 eons, since I offered him that flower, I've come to know no bad rebirth. The fruit of a single lotus, the 4 analytical modes, and these 8 deliverances, 6 special knowledges mastered. I have done what the Buddha taught. Thus indeed Venerable Ukkhittpadumiya Thera spoke these verses. The legend of Ukkhittpadumiya Thera is finished. The summary, Gandhathupiya and Pujani, Panaga, Ekadussadayaka, Phussita and Pabhankara, Hita, Uttareyyadayaka, Savani, Ekadussadayaka, the clump of verses their numbers, 100 verses and also 44 additional ones. The Gandhathupiya chapter, the 34th.